Well, thank you everybody for joining us today for our industry update with Melissa and John. We appreciate you joining us. Please make sure to mute your lines during the presentation and to use the chat feature for any questions. They will be addressed at the end of the presentation. With that, I am going to turn this over to you, John.
Thank you very much, Hope, and welcome to everyone. Good morning. Glad to have you with us again this week. As a reminder, this webinar is designed for the use and benefit of restaurants, hotels, our allied members, travel and tourism partners, and all the other friends of PRLA. It is off the record. It's not for press purposes. We do entertain any and all press inquiries, but not for this webinar. So if you're with the press, please disconnect. Obviously, I don't have to tell anyone on this call today that it's an interesting time on the national scene and in the state of Pennsylvania. If you like nail biters, you're going to like this week, I think. But and Melissa's going to do her best to tell you everything we know, which unfortunately there's probably a lot less than we know than there is that we know. But she'll do her best to do that. And of course, we'll answer any questions that you may have. And let me also remind you that PRLA is available to all in the industry, members or not. But we would certainly encourage you, if you're not a member, to consider becoming a member. We are a dues-based organization. We have a terrific team here that we rely on, and that's how we keep going. We have a new program for restaurants, which is the $1 a day program. And so if you haven't considered joining and you're not a member, please consider joining. Please consider supporting us in that small way. Ben will probably, if he hasn't already, he's probably already put it up. He put something up to show you how easy it is to get involved. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Melissa, or turn it over to Melissa. Melissa, thanks so much. I know that you were up all night trying to figure out what was going to happen, and yet you're here today with your caffeine drip. So go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I only made it till about 1:30 last night, and then I kind of realized that we had hit a wall, and I called it in for the day. This is if you saw my computer screen right now, you'd see I have like 20 tabs open monitoring like every section of the state of Pennsylvania. So this is literally like political nerds peaking right now. The reason you're all here is to talk about the election. I'm going to tell you what I know and what we don't know, and I'm going to tell you to not get excited or feel defeated yet, which is the email I sent to the PRLA staff and some of our committee members today as it pertains to the election. So let's go to where we are. Next slide. Or there, I could have just kept on talking too. All right, let's talk. Let me tell you what I know, and then let me tell you what we don't know, and then let me tell you what's keeping me up at night. This election is weird. I think even weirder than we thought it was going to be. I honestly kind of like woke up yesterday morning thinking after tonight, like my entire political strategy might change depending on how this election turns out. And what we're seeing is more of a balance from the American people than I think we thought we were going to see. I think we all kind of thought we were going to go further left. And then we're all going to try and be figuring it out from there. So where we are right now, nobody has won the presidency yet. Nobody has enough electoral votes. Right now, we have Biden has 238, Trump has 213, they need 270. And there are so many swing states that are going back and forth, including Pennsylvania. We're like the new Florida. Everybody hates us right now because we are probably going to be the last state that declares who wins the presidency within our state. We have learned last night that the Senate, it looks like the US Senate is going to stay in Republican control. As a political nerd, I like that because I feel like there should always be a balance of power. So if Biden wins the presidency, not saying he will, I like the fact that there's going to be some type of balance at the federal level. So that's where we are. It looks like the US House is picking up votes, but not nearly as many votes as I think we thought they were going to. So we are seeing a little bit more of a balance. Within Pennsylvania, we are a bit of a hot mess, which I've said before, but the votes that you are seeing right now, you cannot take to the bank, because what you're seeing right now, and I did say this last week, but I think we're seeing it even more, is a lot of the Republicans are winning. Trump is ahead in Pennsylvania right now. I think more than I would have even guessed that he would have been. All of the state races, attorney general, auditor general, treasurer, all Republicans are in the lead right now. We are seeing, and I'll drill down to state house and Senate in a minute, but what you all need to know is that this race is not over. There are hundreds of thousands of ballots that haven't been counted yet. And guess where those ballots are? Those ballots are in Philadelphia, which has about over 200,000 that haven't been counted yet. Allegheny, that has about 175,000 that haven't been counted. Montgomery, 110. Bucks, over 100,000. And Chester, almost 100,000. So guess what that adds up to? That adds up to potentially Joe Biden catching up and defeating Trump. And it means, because what we're seeing in terms of these, and don't be a political nerd like me, but you can, I think it's votepa.com, where you can look and see how many votes people are getting. So you can look and see how many people voted in person at the polls yesterday and how many votes each candidate got from that. And then you can see, as they're starting to count the mail-in ballots, how many votes they're getting from that. And the mail-in ballots are coming 3-1 for Democrats. So you're going to see a lot of those leads dwindle and potentially go away over the course of all of those ballots being counted, especially because most of the ballots that haven't been counted are in the more left focused parts of the state. So this isn't over by any means. There are some races that have been called. We do have a seat out west, it looks like, in the Senate that's flipping, in the state Senate that's flipping. We have a lot of races in the Southeast that it looks like some of those flip-floppers on 2513 are behind. But again, as I just said, in those suburb counties, there are hundreds of thousands of ballots that haven't been counted. So I can't tell you with authority what's going to happen, but I can tell you that if you are a Trump red wave fan, do not declare victory. And if you are a Biden Democrat fan, do not declare defeat at this point. We have a long way to go before this is over. And that's where we are also at the state and Senate level. I was nervous. I think I told you last week I was worried about the House. Like I said, it does seem like there is, what we're seeing is a bit of a balance. It looks like the state Senate's absolutely going to stay in Republican control, and the state House Republicans might actually pick up a seat or two. And I thought that we might would lose it or only have 1 or 2 Republican seat majority left. So it looks like the state House and Senate, as of right now at 11:08, are going to stay comfortably in Republican control. And of course, we have our governor, who is not up for re-election. So he has 2 years within being our governor. The lawsuits have started. There were lawsuits filed yesterday, and this is really where we're having issues. And Pennsylvania, because we are a special place, is one of the few states where our Supreme Court said that if you postmark your ballot by November 3rd and it's received by this Friday, then it could count in terms of being voted for. And there are hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots that were requested that haven't been sent back in, and they might not be sent back in. But if they were postmarked yesterday, technically, if they're received by Friday, they could count. So we might not know a lot of the results potentially until Friday, depending on how close some of these races are. To that end, there is a ton of lawsuits that are floating out there. Like I said, we are the new Florida. There is a push, to stop counting after last night. That's not going to happen. So that one's probably not going to go anywhere. But there is a push that said if your ballot wasn't counted before midnight on November 3rd, or November 4th, then it doesn't count. There is a push that any ballot that is received after November 3rd cannot be counted. Now, our state Supreme Court already ruled there, but they left it vague enough that they could change their minds if they want to. And what we're also seeing is that while the Supreme Court said that ballots that are returned late can be counted as long as they're gotten in by Friday and postmarked on Election Day, counties are handling that differently. So We have seen some counties, as they've received their ballots, they'll open them up and get them ready to be processed because they can't process them until yesterday. And then if they noticed an error, they were actually telling the specific party to reach out to that person to see if they wanted to come in and vote in person since their ballot wasn't done correctly. We have other counties that saw ballots that weren't done correctly. They weren't in the secrecy envelope or they weren't signed on the outside, that just tossed them to the side and said they're not counted. So I think that's going to be the basis of a lawsuit in Pennsylvania. So long, frustrating, I'm not sleeping this week story short is, no, even if we have answers on Friday, there are going to be lawsuits between now and then to kind of figure out what ballots are going to be counted and what aren't. And some of these races are close, very close. So I think we're going to see other, at least on the presidential election, I think we're going to see some states declare today. Trump was way ahead in Michigan. Now Biden's slightly ahead. Trump is holding on and squeaking by in North Carolina right now. But what's happening is a lot of those cities, a lot of those kind of more Democratic cities took longer to count their votes, and now they're starting to come in. So that lead we really saw on the Republican side across the nation is starting to diminish now. So we don't have any answers. That's a really long story about what I know for right now. Of course, we will be keeping an eye on everything. I'm watching, as I know many of you are watching like a hawk, some of those people who didn't vote with us on 2513 are having some really tough elections. So just on my pride piece, I'd like to see what happens there. But I think we're going to have a lot of new people in the state house and the state senate before all is said and done, Democrats and Republicans. So far, all is quiet on the protest riot front. We are seeing, even in Harrisburg, a lot of businesses boarded up their business to get ahead of anything that could happen. I don't think that we should discount that there are going to be protests and riots, especially from last night, where Trump was saying that he should win. If last night counted, if it ended last night, he would win. So while we don't have anything happening today, we should be prepared for things to happen before the end of the week. There is a lot of chatter within large cities, within protesters, that they are planning to protest. It just might be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday situation. So just because there wasn't anything last night doesn't mean that we should discount protests in the future. I'm sorry this isn't more uplifting. This is the weirdest election ever, like in the history, and I've been monitoring this stuff for so long, and it's so weird. And it's because we have the mail-in ballots. So all of that like immediate gratification I get when I know who wins on election night, it's like killing me right now that we don't know the answers. So where are we? Next slide. So we do expect, no matter what happens, that the state house and state senate will come back to session on Monday to determine leadership. Depending on how the election goes, it could actually get a little interesting. If the Republicans pick up seats, your leadership in the House is going to stay pretty much where it is. Speaker of the House, Brian Cutler, Majority Leader Carrie Benninghoff. Senate, we are assuming, and we'll go into all of this next week after the leadership elections. Senate, we're assuming Jake Corman is going to be president pro temp since Joe Scarnati has retired. And there is some scuttle about who will be the new majority leader that will happen there. If the Republicans pick up seats in the House and Senate, the existing leaders are going to be like held up on a pedestal and fawned over. If the Democrats lose seats, especially this year when they assumed that they would pick up seats, we might see a big shuffle in terms of Democratic leadership as well. And to be honest, if we do see more Republicans pick up seats, I think me trying to be optimistic, looking at COVID, because I know COVID hasn't gone away, even though I didn't hear boo about it in the news yesterday. My hope is that maybe the Democrats will look at the way Pennsylvanians have voted and recognize that maybe the leadership that's coming from the top with the shutdowns and the regulations on businesses is not a good long-term strategy for them to be successful in elections. But all of that is going to come out of depending on how these mail-in ballots are counted and where we end up in terms of House and Senate leadership. So they'll be back next week. And then, as I said, they could come back and do some other bills, especially if the Republicans increase their majority. I think we can expect some things to get done this fall, which would be good for all of us moving forward. Next slide. So we're not done on social media. And 2513, we're not done with our push on that as well. So we still need to keep the pressure up. There is a social media. We sent you some that you could use specifically for the elections. We sent you ones that you could post and put on your bars. You need to keep on doing that. Even with the election being over, you are still being mitigated against. We still cannot have Christmas parties. We still cannot have events. We still have people getting COVID from private gatherings in their homes because they can't go and have it safely at one of our establishments. Just because the election is over, that doesn't mean we stop. Because if we stop, then everybody's going to get complacent and we're not going to survive the winter. So it's going to be really important that you continue to post on social media. There is a great template or a great post we have for social media that basically promotes the fact that we can have events safely and people aren't having them safely at their homes right now. And we are seeing that the increase in cases, more people are saying that they were at a private gathering in a home than went to a restaurant or were at a wedding. So we're definitely seeing that increase and we need to focus on that. And as I said, again, keep the pressure on. These legislators that are reelected and either voted with us or against us, they need to stay with us or they need to be reminded that we aren't going to forget that vote. And we are going to have a slew of new people coming into the House and Senate starting in January. And if they see that our industry is engaged and watching them from the get-go, they are going to support us and want to be engaged from the get-go. So don't stop in terms of those social media posts, those templates, putting them up and making sure people are seeing that we're watching them. The rallies, they are happening. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that they are scheduled. We are asking you to register because we want to be able to control crowds if we need to. So you can see on here where the rallies are going to be held. These are not, and I mentioned this last week, but I'll do it again. These rallies are not, how dare this person vote against 2513. These rallies are, it's getting cold. We've tried to work with the governor. He refuses to work with us. We've tried to pass legislation. We couldn't get the votes for that. We don't have grant programs. This is basically saying we need legislators to stand up with us. We need the public to stand up with us. We need financial support via state CARES funding. We need federal support. I will be inviting Congress people to these rallies as well. We need all of these things. We need to reopen and we need financial support to survive the winter. So this is, like I said, continuing to hold people accountable for voting and for them needing to vote. I love all of the Republicans and Democrats who voted for 2513, but they don't get to pat themselves on the back and say, I put up a vote for restaurants. We still need support. We still need financial support. And these rallies are going to be that opportunity, one, for us to come together with our masks, socially distanced outside, to show that we are still watching people. We will not forgive those who don't stand with us, and we need their support. If we do not see the needle move here, I know many of you are looking in the winter and you're not sure how you're going to survive. So registration is up. I know Ben put that on the page. Please register. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to go, since I'm going to be at almost all of them. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to actually hang out with me in person. So that should be incentive enough to register for the rallies. We do have these scheduled now. If your area is not listed, we can look at doing one there in the future. I'm just cognizant of PRLA staff overextending themselves. So this is pretty hefty right here, but we can certainly schedule other rallies in your area if you don't see yourself listed. For my Pittsburgh people, I'm coming out for that one. So I expect some turnout from all of you on November 16th. If I'm driving out to Pittsburgh, I expect you to be there. And we will be asking people to speak. We will be inviting legislators. This is going to be a big push, like I said, to draw attention to the fact that we need people to continue to put up votes and save the industry. And then, okay, here we are. I know everybody's still asking me that same question, and I feel like I'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about the LCB. They are special. So last week, as I announced or predicted, because I didn't want to speak with authority until they took the vote, the LCB did decide to waive 2021 license renewal fees for restaurant licenses, hotel licenses. If you are a retail license that's not a beer distributor, your renewal fees for 2021 will be waived. So that is inclusive of your Sunday sales permit, any of your add-ons. It's the surcharge, it's your regular license renewal fee. The only thing it doesn't include is if you have a wine expanded permit, your WEP renewal. And of course they did that because mostly grocery stores have that, and they want to make sure the grocery stores are renewing those licenses. So they're not, that's the only fee you are going to have to pay in 2021 if you are a retail restaurant type serving the public license. With that being said, you will still need to renew. You just will not have to pay any fees to renew. This does not include, and I'm like shrinking a little bit, this does not include manufacturers. So if you are a brewery or a winery or a distillery, as of right now, this does not include your license renewal. But if you have a couplet license, it would impact your restaurant portion of your license. Now, the fun part about this, which I've kind of rolled my eyes with the LCB when I got this call, was you don't have to pay in 2021, but you need to pay 2020 by the end of the year. So right now, when we're all wrecked, they're saying you need to pay your full license renewal for this year by December 31st. So if you have not renewed your license, you will have to do that by the end of the year. Then you won't have to do it in 2021. With that being said, the vote passed to not have renewals 2-to-1. Mike Negra, who is kind of the conservative member of the LCB board, voted against it because, quite frankly, and he's probably right, he said this should be the legislature passing this. This should not be us just checking a box because the governor told us to. So we might have a lawsuit, especially from a municipality, because the municipalities will not receive any of those fees that they typically get in 2021 because you aren't paying those fees. So we might see a lawsuit. So all of this might get changed. This is one of those items that I have on my list to try and get done legislatively in some form to protect that from happening. But that's where we are in terms of LCB. So if you have not renewed for 2020 because you haven't had to, you do need to renew. If you have a license in safekeeping, you do not have to pay any safekeeping fees right now. That's going to get pulled back. So you don't have to pay any of those, but your renewal fees for this year, you do have to pay. Case counts. I know there's more testing, but case counts are not good right now in Pennsylvania in terms of COVID. They're high, like higher than they were in the spring. And I know I'm in all of your heads, also because the caffeine is starting to kick in. Hospitalizations are not up, but hospitalizations are increasing. And I think that's what we need to be most concerned about. Numbers are increasing. But when hospitalizations start to, which usually happens a few weeks after case counts increase, that's where I get nervous. No, I have not heard that the governor is going to shut us down on Friday. And you all know I'm the one who, I didn't spread the rumor because I told you this is just what I would do and it was not based on any reality. But I can't tell you how many people called me and said they heard the governor's shutting us down on Friday. And I'm like, that's because I mentioned it on a webinar and now it's the gospel truth. There have been no discussions that are public that the governor is going to shut us down. And quite frankly, like I said, as we're seeing from this election, if the Democrats lose seats, there might be some pushback from his own party saying we can't continue to operate like this. Like we suffered in this election because of some of the things that you have done to the businesses in the state of Pennsylvania. So I haven't heard anything. We are seeing Europe shut down restaurants. Britain just shut down restaurants for a month. We're seeing it in Germany. That's what I'm nervous about. If case counts increase, is there going to be a push to shut us down? I'm worried about it in Philadelphia. As of 2 days ago, Philadelphia was not having any conversations about shutting down restaurants, but they did caveat that with, if case counts don't go down, that is a conversation we're going to have shortly. So I can't tell you. I can tell you right now, nothing's changed. I don't expect to have bar seating given to us anytime soon, but I have not heard that there will be a shutdown. And quite frankly, like I said, until we see how this election shakes out, I don't think we're going to have an announcement on that front. But if case counts do increase, I'm worried about that. And I think we all need to be prepared for that. And that's why I also think these rallies are going to be really important. One, for us to be responsible and show that even when we're livid, and we're suffering, that we can come together and socially distance and wear masks, but two, to keep the pressure on, especially at a time that the administration might be thinking about further mitigation efforts. And I think local, Allegheny is still no changes. They do have their press conference at 4 o'clock today. Montgomery County has a press conference every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. So we'll see what happens there. I do expect Allegheny to continue to follow the governor. I think they kind of bit off more than they could chew when they did their individual shutdown back in July. Philadelphia, like I mentioned, Commissioner Farley said last week that if case counts increase in Philadelphia, which they are, he is going to look at shutting down restaurants. That's one of the things that he will do if he feels that he needs to, which is why, like I said, on social media, putting that pressure on our elected officials that we are not the problem. The increased cases are not coming from us. It's not coming from restaurants. It's not coming from events that are doing the right thing. It's coming from people being individually irresponsible, and also people are just tired, and I think that's a lot of it too, and we should not be punished for some of the complacency that I think we're starting to see with people just getting sick and tired of COVID in general. So stay tuned this week. Before I said Friday, if we don't have election results until Friday, I don't expect an announcement from the governor then in terms of any type of mitigation, but of course we will let you know if and when we hear anything, but everything right now is not confirmed. And if you say you hear it from the LCB, you can throw that out the window, because the LCB usually hears about a shutdown from PRLA before they hear it from the governor's office. So if that's your source, don't take that one to the bank. And I think that wraps up, and I don't see a lot of questions, but I can take questions. I think I'm going to have next week's webinar, just block out 2 hours. We're going to be here for a while next week, because we're going to be talking about leadership elections. We're going to be talking about election results. We're going to be here and we'll be talking about like fall advocacy efforts. Just clear your schedule, put some bourbon in your coffee. It's going to be fun. And I will turn it over to Hope.
Great, thank you. I mean, as you can see, we do have a webinar up there, and you can register after we get off this call today. We will have another webinar coming up. I'm sorry, I had surgery in my mouth, and so I'm not talking clearly right now. On the 19th with Focus HRO, they're going to be talking about their products. If you go to the next slide, Eric. Another refresher we wanted to put up onto our during this webinar, and it's up on our website, is we've been getting questions about how to handle employees testing positive. Please, you have this link sent out to you, but this is the link to go to. It has detailed directions on how to handle cases of COVID. Things to remember is cleaning and disinfecting 24 hours. You're shutting down for 24 hours, cleaning and disinfecting, opening up windows, using ventilation, identifying the workers that came into close contact with the sick person. And again, they can return to work after meeting the CDC's requirements of 3 days of no fever, symptoms improved, 10 days since first symptom. If you do have questions on this, you can definitely give us a call, but going to the governor's website is where you should go to get the details on how to handle these cases. And then for the next slide, again, we're having our classes, and please remember, you do still need to get certified for your food employee certifications, keeping them up to date and making sure that you're, keeping ServSafe practices front and center at your establishments. And I don't know if everybody saw it, I know Melissa saw it, the ServSafe dining commitment was featured during the election. They did have a commercial. The national organization is going to be doing a campaign over the next 2 months. Steph is putting it up onto their website, and they will be including all of the restaurants that have taken part with the PA Restaurant Promise. There is a consumer website that people can go to and see the businesses that are taking advantage or signed up for these promises. It's a great way to promote your restaurant, that you are here to protect the employees and protect the customers, and that you are a safe environment for people to come out and dine at. So I think Steph put up the link to our website. It's as easy as just putting your name, your address, and downloading the documents for your restaurant. There's not much more to it, and we will send the information to the national organization to put it up on their map. So please take advantage of this promotion for your establishments. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Melissa.
I think I saw Chris Sirianni from Erie on here, but Erie came in hot for Trump and Republicans last night, crazy high numbers. And it was much closer before. So that was kind of interesting. So good job, Erie. You're delivering. Can PRLA host another Philadelphia winterization session with the Philadelphia officials from Commerce? First one was a great start, but we need more from them. We can definitely look into that. I am not sure how much information they can provide, because I think we're starting to see like Philadelphia and even the state kind of not answer questions anymore. But we can definitely look into that. I did mention there is no chatter or threat from the Wolf administration about imposing restrictions. I'm worried about it, but there's nothing that no things are leaking from his office that are coming directly from them yet. And like I said, I think they're probably going to wait and see what happens with the election. Does the license renewal forgiveness include the off-premise license? If it's the off-premise catering permit, no, because that's not part of your renewal. You probably get it when you renew, depending on when you renew, since you have to get it at the beginning of every year if that's when you renew. It's only those fees that you pay that you have to pay when you renew your license. So it does not include the off-premise renewal. I can tell you that I'm looking at trying, I can't do it through the LCB because they just make decisions, to try and get a pass for 2021 for that as well, since I know a lot of you invested in that $500 off-premise catering permit, you couldn't use it. So I am looking at trying to find a way to give you a year where you don't have to pay, or maybe roll over those unused amounts that you could use it for into next year. So we're exploring that. Lots of links today. Chris, you're welcome, Pennsylvania. If you saw these numbers are absolutely unreal, and they're coming in 60% with 77% reporting in Erie. I mean, that's crazy. Their Republican senator came in at 70% in Erie. I got to give you credit. I wasn't expecting those numbers this morning. This is literally what I'm going to do all day. Is if you need me, I will be refreshing tabs and checking numbers. So definitely pay attention. If you know your state rep or state senator and they win, reach out to them and thank them. Let's continue to keep our industry front of mind for everybody. If you've been working on, especially my Southeast friends, been working for campaigns for people that were running against incumbents that look like they're going to win, your foot's already in the door. That's awesome. So we will keep an eye on things. I will provide updates in the daily update as I figure things out. I might take a nap this afternoon. And like I said, next webinar is going to get a little rowdy. So clear your schedule. It'll be fun, I promise. And I think I'm going to stop talking now.
Yep. Thank you, Melissa. As usual, terrific
one
job.
more question.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking the New Year's Eve gate. That's the new gate. It's actually two issues. So the question is, I feel this is a stupid question, but I have to ask. It's not. A lot of people have been asking, is there any chance of being able to host a responsible New Year's Eve event that we won't have to throw everyone out before the ball drops? I think everyone is looking forward to this dumpster fire of a year to be over. You have two issues. One, they have to be out by midnight when the ball drops, but two, they can't have a glass of champagne when the ball drops because you can't serve them alcohol after 11 o'clock. The governor's got to make that decision, and that's a conversation that we're going to be having and that we're going to be asking for. Now's not the best time for me to have that conversation, but we recognize it and it makes sense. But like I said, logic and reason, I don't think has been applied during this crisis, but we hear it. We're going to fight for it. I think it makes sense. So we will work on that. And now I will officially stop talking. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Melissa. And thanks to all of you for tuning in today. And please get involved in one of the rallies. I think you'll find it'll be a really good event. And we have to continue to, as Melissa correctly said, to shed a light on our industry and how important it is for us to be open. So thanks again for tuning in. Keep your eyes peeled for the daily updates this week. We'll try to give you all the information that we can as far as what's happening with the election, and most of all, stay safe. Thank you.